Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the new and improved Trial Technology and Litigation Support Podcast. I'm your host, Robb Helt, and I want to thank everybody who is listening to this show. I want to ask you to go and subscribe. Subscribe on iTunes. We did not move our subscribers over. Of course, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on TuneIn, and wherever you like to get your podcast from. And unfortunately, we lost a server. Now, we didn't lose a lot of data, but we lost an RSS feed. Of course, we could have went back and recreated and did those things, but we wanted to move the server anyway. So that was done, and now we have relaunched, rebranded, changed a lot of things up, and as everybody knows, and maybe you don't know, maybe you're a new listener, and if you're new, thank you. And I encourage you to go to the archives at podcast.defactotrial.com and listen to some of the older episodes. Of course, quality of the show began to go up into the later shows. We have the dates wrong on most of the shows. Most of the shows were 2015 and 2016 shows. So they're all listed as 17 now because that's the way we put them in. But we're going to go change that and get that worked out where they're basically in order the way they were aired for the past 2 years. The rules on the podcast are pretty simple. Number one, I have no sponsors. I have no one who sponsors this show. No one who pays any money, not one dime, to this show, because I do not want to be beholden to anyone as far as opinion goes. It's not fair for me to let a software company advertise and then turn around and have a competitor on. It's just not fair. It's not right. It's not something I'm willing to do. Also, I don't want the opinions to be jaded, so to speak. That's number one. Number two, I don't have any negative type vibes on this show. I just don't do it. Now, I may ask hard questions, and I may ask questions that seem a little suspect, but this is not designed to be a barbecue of anyone, regardless of their position in the industry or regardless of their software. Now, if their software is bad, if it's something I've tried and I don't like or something like that, I may not even bring them on the show. Or I might. I mean, who knows? You know what I'm saying? So I want everybody to go in, if you can, subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the more we know our analytics, the better our data becomes. Now, although I don't have sponsors, I do have a company that I tell people about their software. And I tell them every time, look, I'm going to talk about your stuff. And that's Lexicata. Lexicata is a wonderful intake software for lawyers. And it is a wonderful CRM for lawyers. And we decided a long time ago to take a look at Lexicata, and I love this thing. It enables me to do my contracts with my clients. It enables me to keep track of my contacts. It enables me to keep track of my content. Everything having to do with a matter, a client, a document, it's all done through Lexicata. That's lexicata.com, Lexicata.com. I will always mention them on the show because their software, they're not paying me for this. They're not doing anything for me for this. And this software I truly believe in when it comes to what's out there. Michael Chasen has done a show. You can go back and listen to it. You can listen to the developer, Aaron George. He was on the show. And we talk about what Lexicata does. So I encourage you to go and check that out. Lastly, I want to say that the music that you hear in the background of every show, on the intro, sometimes the out, just depends, is a group from Memphis, Tennessee called the Ghost Town Blues Band. I'm a blues fan. I love their stuff. Matt Isbell actually gave me the consent to use their music. And so I encourage you to go Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your music, and search for Ghost Town Blues Band. Amazing, amazing group. Now, we've got all that housekeeping out of the way. Today's show is going to be interesting because it is going to be listener-based, meaning I have questions of my own, and I threw a post out on LinkedIn and said, hey, send me your questions to ask Kim Taylor at Ipro and Derek Miller at inData. As you know, Ipro purchased TrialDirector. TrialDirector is the software. inData is the parent company. It is now Ipro. There are people in the industry that feel this is a bad idea. There's people that feel it's a good idea. But all of the rumors, all of the innuendo, all of that is going to be squashed today because I'm bringing the CEO of Ipro, who I've had on before, Kim Taylor. I'm bringing the CEO of inData, who I've had on before, Derek Miller. You can go back and find both of those shows inside of the archives at podcast.defactotrial.com. We're going to talk today about the merger. What are the plans for Ipro? What are the plans for inData? Where is this thing going? This is on everybody's mind right now because anytime you have a shakeup like this, anytime you have things that happen like this, people start to get a little uneasy. People start to get a little scared. I'm not going to throw any company under the bus, but I'm going to say that when Verdict Systems was purchased by Alexander Gallo, Alexander Gallo is a court reporting firm, and Sanction was purchased by them. And then Alexander Gallo, the software Sanction, was purchased by LexisNexis. I do not know if Lex has done any development. I don't know if they've done new releases. I don't know if they're doing support and maintenance. I don't have a clue what Lex is doing with this software. I reached out to Lex a year ago to come on the show and talk to the listeners, and they declined. Well, let me rephrase that. They simply didn't reply. So I take that as they declined. We are going to talk today, though, soup to nuts about Ipro and about inData because we need to get a lot of rumors out of the way here. And I have a ton of questions that have come to me via email. And so we'll be getting them on in just a moment. I did get a couple of messages that asked me, hey, what is this de facto thing? What is this thing going on? Well, let me tell you. A de facto standard is a custom or a convention that has achieved a dominant position by public acceptance or market forces. It means basically that it's a standard that is widely accepted. And so, as I had said on a podcast with Jordan Ray, I was getting out of the trial business and I wasn't going to do any hot seat work anymore. Well, you can take the guy out of the trial, but you can't take trial out of the guy. And so I'm back. I'm back in the game. I'm doing trial work. We created de facto. I say we, me. Created de facto back in August, so fairly new company, still operating out of Dallas-Fort Worth, and we are aiming to do what we've always done, and that is maintain a high level of quality, a high level of service, and we're back in the game, and I am just excited about doing trial work again and being back in that arena. So, we're not a sub company. We don't do a lot of sub work, but if you have something, you need somebody, feel free to shoot me an email. That's Robb, R-O-B-B, at defactotrial.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at defactotrial. Feel free to contact me if you're looking for somebody, you need somebody to hot seat. I got a lot of contacts out here. So feel free to holler at me. That is the last time, though, that you are going to hear me on this show talk about my company. This show is not designed as an advertising piece for me. Never has been. You can go back and listen to any show in the archive, and this is not a self-promotion show. So enough about that. So now let me go to my guests, and let's get them on today. Kim Taylor, Derek Miller, and let's hear what they've got to say. So I want to welcome to the show, my guests today, and we've actually added a third. We've got Ted Brooks in. Ted decided last minute that he wanted to come on this thing, and I've always wanted Ted as a co-host of the show, but unfortunately we were never able to make that work out due to his schedule and mine, and it's very difficult, but glad to have Ted here. We've got on the line with us right now, coming in from Phoenix, Arizona, Kim Taylor and Derek Miller. Kim, how you doing today, buddy?
Couldn't be better. Thanks for having us.
Derek, how's it going?
It's wonderful.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've done podcasts with both of you a couple of years ago for you, Kim, and a year ago for you, Derek, and then we were out at Ipro Innovations. And the first thing I want to talk about to get everything out in the open right now is the first thing was the Parker Gale investment into Ipro. Kim, what has that done for the brand?
Well, for the most part, it's business as usual, and that's kind of the messaging that I think you're going to hear about the inData acquisition and the Ipro acquisition. You know, Ipro's been on a mission to make the eDiscovery world simple, affordable, and automated, and Parker Gale believed in that mission, and so they basically passed the baton from Jim and Greg onto Parker Gale, and They've given us the resources to move forward on that vision.
So something that I think may be unknown to a lot of people in the industry is this acquisition of inData, Kim, is nothing new. You have been talking about this for at least 5 years that I'm aware of. Is that correct?
Well, I was courting Derek 5 years ago, and we tried to do a merger. I think before we moved into the new building 2 years ago, I took him around the office and said, "Look, your office could be here." So we've been talking about this for a while. It really took Parker Gale's resources to get it done, and but I think it couldn't have been a better marriage. The two companies have so much synergy. Since
I'm already talking to you, Kim, I'm going to address there were a lot of questions that were sent to me. I made a post on LinkedIn earlier in the week, and people who follow the Trial Technology Board that Ted and I host, they sent their questions, and I have those, and I promised anonymity, and that's what I'm going to give. But I'm going to ask some questions, and this one's to you, Kim. Does Ipro do eDiscovery work as a service, or do you just sell the platform?
Well, I think the lines are blurred. So, you know, the industry has changed drastically. If you look at some of the bigger players in the industry, DTI, they're a service company that they own and build their own software. If you look at the up-and-comings of the CS Discos and the Everlaws and the Logicals, they're software companies that do service. So even the old mighty Relativity, aka Kcura, they have Relativity One, which is basically a cloud-based platform. So I don't think that any company can be completely one way or the other. So we have our service bureau channel that we support. We sell directly to law firms, corporations, and government agencies. We have our self-service component, but we'll do whatever it takes to get those customers into the Ipro platform.
Derek, we're going to talk about the inData suite of services. Very first, right off the bat, is it now Ipro and no longer inData, or is it still going to be called inData, the parent company of TrialDirector and Timecoder?
Eventually, there will be a time period where inData will still exist, but for the most part, the integration between the two companies has gone very quickly. It took all of 2 weeks to get all of our people from our offices over to their offices, and we're just slowly working through the rest of the integration pieces. And so overall, one of the reasons why we did the deal was because things were very synergistic like that, where similar culture, similar ideas, similar ways of working, and so it's been very easy to bring our people in and assimilate them and have very little downtime.
So this is Ted. So I just wanted to ask a quick question along those lines. Looking at the two similar yet different. I don't know if that works, but different yet similar business models where, specifically on TrialDirector, where TrialDirector is a product and is also, has a service component where trial techs are, employed or were employed, have been employed by inData. So what's kind of the general plan on there? Is that, do you see it expanding to be more service or about the same ratio, or how is this going to affect your current user base? Those of TrialDirector, we'll start with that. We might go to Ipro later, but for right now, how is the TrialDirector current user base, regardless of what angle they're coming from, how are they going to be affected?
They shouldn't. It should be business as usual. It should be, our goal is always to put TrialDirector into as many hands as possible. And the service side, the consulting side, we've been doing that since day one. And, we still have a small group. Our goal is if we can get TrialDirector into as many hands as possible, it brings work for everybody.
Then I want to ask a question on that, and this is going to go over to Kim. Kim, is Ipro now going to try to leverage its market share and create a trial consulting business out of that?
Well, it's not a matter of creating. We already have one with the inData group. So inData has, they're the #1 trial platform out there, which is why we acquired them. They also have a very small but mighty trial consulting group. What I really like about the trial consulting group is, their trial consultants that they have internally only does a small segment or small percentage of the total trials that comes through inData. And so if you look at our goal is, if you look, they have thousands of customers, we have thousands of customers. There's a little bit of overlap. But for the most part, there's all this new blue water for us. So our customers now will have the ability to take advantage of TrialDirector. The TrialDirector customers will have the advantage of have the ability to take advantage of all of the eDiscovery stuff prior to trial. And as we merge the software together, it will be a seamless integration going back and forth. So we're very excited. But I can tell you, our goal is to get as many TrialDirector seats out there as possible. So, we have one of the things that I think is amazing about inData. TrialDirector is the #1 market share with very little bit of a sales force. It is very much of a 29-year history of word of mouth, and they've built a very great business based upon a word-of-mouth type of marketing and sales campaign. Ipro is very aggressive. I have 25 folks out there selling the Ipro suite of products. Can you imagine how many TrialDirectors we will sell when they're bundled with our processing review and they're part of that 25 person sales team? So, our goal is to really get TrialDirector in every law firm.
There's where you're going to push a button right there, because and that's what I want to continue to ask. Personally, I'm good. I understand the concept and I understand the business dealing, but there's where you're going to push a hot button. You're going to take a sales staff of 25 and you want to put TrialDirector inside of as many law firms as you can. If I'm the developer of a piece of software or I own a piece of software, you're damn right. I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm not against you on this, but I think the problem that some of the trial techs are having right now is I think they feel, just based on the questions that I've received, they feel threatened by this bigger fish coming into their small pond to put the TrialDirector software onto the machines in the law firm, thus saying to the law firm, hey, you can do it yourself. But this is not new business, is it, Derek? This has been going on for years.
No, that's how we've always done it.
Well, and I also want to comment, if, you're saying, I think you're alluding that, oh my God, we might be trying to take trials away from the trial consultants. If anything, We're trying to get more trials to the trial consultants.
But perfect, because you got to have somebody do them.
Hold on there, Chief. You alluded to a small, small pond. We're trying to make the pond bigger. And you all know that, every law firm might have one technical person, maybe two. Most of them have multiple trials going on. Can you imagine if TrialDirector is 10 times the size of its customer base today than what it is, tomorrow versus today? Can you imagine how many trials are going on? Can you imagine how many trial consultants will be needed? So we believe that we'll grow the trial consultant business, not weaken it.
But if you grow it, that's why I don't disagree with you, because if you grow it, you're going to have people to cover those trials. Thus, Ipro looks to sub other people. Ted, you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I'll just throw in here too that we're working two different directions with eDiscovery versus trial, and what I mean here is that the whole eDiscovery service platform function, however you want to describe it, is definitely growing by leaps and bounds day by day. I mean, this is something that's very, very big, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. And there's more legislation coming on that deals with it, and it's definitely in the crosshairs, in law. And on the other hand, trial is going the other direction. Trial's going away. And there are fewer trials today than there have ever been. So the pie is much smaller. The slices are much smaller. Or maybe the slices are the same. The pie itself is smaller. And I think that trend is going to continue as well. So, on one hand, you're possibly, as a union, a union of two different businesses. One has ridiculous potential for growth. The other, maybe not so much. You might get more software in the hands of more people out there that are going to try and do it themselves, just like something like TrialPad. I mean, they've done a pretty good job of that, getting it out there and getting lots of people to take it and try and go to trial with it. And some have done well, some have failed miserably. But in any event, I mean, that's sort of what I maybe see as the satellite image of what might happen or what is happening.
Well, and that leads me to the next question, which is going to be for Derek, and that is, what can we expect down the line as far as integration between the two packages, the Ipro suite and TrialDirector?
I think what our goal is as Kim said earlier, is to make that integration seamless, so that the workflow and the work that gets done can seamlessly move from one phase of litigation to another. And then, just to go back just a little bit on Ted's comment, the way I look at it is very similar to how many attorneys there are. There are those that are really great and they never have to worry about business. There are those that, probably would do better as public defenders. So the same thing applies, in my opinion, to consultants. There are those that have a relationship, that are out there building their business and realize that it's a relationship business. And then there are those that are hoping that something falls in their lap. They're not willing to go work for it and build those relationships and show that they have a skill set. And so in the end, if we can help the law firms transition all that work so that if they do go to trial, it's all ready to go, and then make it easy for them to work with a trial consultant, that to me is kind of the end goal.
So, and I don't think that the trial consultants will ever go away. One of the nice things about this merger is and I was on your podcast, Robb. I'm an old trial guy, so I've been doing trials since 1975. So I'm the CEO of Ipro that's probably been in 50, 60 trials. So that's kind of a unique position. Is even though iPro's experience is eDiscovery, we have a lot of background on trials, and we appreciate all the efforts that goes into trial. So we're going to give you, all the consultants, the best tools possible to do their jobs. But I think that you also see that as we merge the eDiscovery and trial worlds together, there's so much more business on the pre-trial work that maybe not be, that the consultants aren't really being considered for. So, as we work on more of the trial prep and after you do your review, all the things that you're going to do to determine whether you're going to trial or not, or prepping for trial, we're going to make that very powerful tools to where those consultants can come in and hopefully get more business, even though it may not end up in trial.
So moving into, I got all these questions that were sent to me, so I'm going to ask them. Derek, will TrialDirector have bulk image conversion that exports color JPEGs, black and white TIFFs, bulk file renaming, more options on branding or exhibit pagination, OCR capabilities? Will it have these things built in without jeopardizing the program's reliability?
One of the benefits of the merger is we get a lot of the features and functionality that are already built into iPro software. So iPro has a product, Eclipse SE, which is a desktop product. It's
pretty freaking good too.
Summation replacement.
That thing's great. Eclipse SE is an amazing piece of software, by the way.
But it has all those features of branding and file renaming and bulk renaming, and it, I think, is a tool that consultants ought to be adding to their arsenal.
And that's when we start integrating those. You'll see that we want to make it to where there's many toolboxes. There's many tools in the toolbox, and what does it take to get the trial? I think you'll see through our automated digital discovery, our ad platform, and our Eclipse SE platform, and it has scanning and it has processing as well. You tie these all together, it's pretty much a force to be reckoned with.
And if you've been around a long time, you can remember when TrialDirector did have OCR and stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah, what's funny about that is it seems like you almost come full circle on a lot of these things. Tim Piccanelli and Diane were in today, and we were just talking about, back in the old day, blah, blah, blah. And some of that had to do with, back in the day when TrialDirector had OCR or had full text that kind of went with it. But
Pig is still in the old days. I mean, he refuses to upgrade. I love Tim and I love Tim and Diane.
Isn't that a song?
That's Jack and Diane, Bubba.
Oh, sorry, close enough.
Well, would TrialDirector be offered? Will it still be offered, I guess, as a standalone tool for those that do not use Eclipse, Derek?
Sure. I mean, we've got a lot of our users are just out there on their own, and we have to be able to take care of them. Also, when you go into the courtroom, you're still going to need a desktop until the systems in the courtroom, connectivity in the courtroom changes. So,
and one of the nice things about this merger is I've known Derek forever, and it's amazing that we're married because we used to compete against one another. So it's kind of funny and humorous. But one of the things that I've got to learn over the last 4 or 5 months is how much technology inData has been working on that no one has seen yet. So there's a brand new desktop version that will, by Legal Tech, we'll have a brand new desktop version of TrialDirector. We'll have integrations into the iPro products. We also have some case preparation systems that's going to come out as well. So, there's a lot of technology that you guys haven't seen that you guys are thinking, oh, inData and TrialDirector 6.8. We're getting ready to, unveil some pretty cool stuff. All right,
so that leads to the next question, Derek. I remember, I spent 2.5 hours when you walked me through a mind map and in Phoenix about TD Notebook when it was, in its infancy of what you were doing. This question says, I've heard rumblings from a TrialDirector provider that TrialDirector was moving to a cloud-based platform for version 7. If so, are there details on that? Now, I know I did a lot of beta testing, Derek, at one time on something, so I'm not going to answer the question, but is it moving to a cloud-based platform?
Yeah, probably not as people are thinking. I think that it won't be a product by itself in the cloud. It will be integrated with iPro's pieces so that it comes across and the workflow works as litigation goes.
Is the interface?
So now let me elaborate a tad. That iPro had this thing in their ad system called self-service, and iPro has both desktop and they have both cloud. inData has been working on a new desktop version of TrialDirector, as well as this cloud-based system that really kind of takes trial in a whole new manner, this collaborative sharing and working together and prep. But always with the mindset that when you go to trial, you need this desktop app. So, and that's really where I think this marriage is perfect, because we're doing the same. So I think that you'll see an emergence of our of iPro self-service mentality, as well as what they call share, merging these together to where you'll be able to collaborate, you'll be able to upload information, you'll be able to download information, you'll be able to work on the desktop or work up in the cloud. So that's our big goal is, to say cloud or desktop and where we both play, you have to have a little bit of both, but they all have to be interconnected, and where you sit really doesn't make a difference. And I think it's going to be this share concept that we're working on is going to be a very powerful tool, especially on the collaborative area.
Let me ask this from a trial tech perspective. Let's say I don't know anything about eDiscovery, and so now I potentially have access to the iPro suite of tools, and decide, hey, you know what, this eDiscovery thing is looks interesting to me. I can see it's always in the headlines. Everybody's talking about it. I think maybe I can get some of my clients on it. Maybe I can market the fact and what have you. So how do you see the trial tech who's not already into eDiscovery getting into this? Do you see them sort of buying the suite and doing the services, or do you see them selling the services and iPro's doing the work, or or all the above, or what do you see as the options for someone coming from the trial world getting in to the eDiscovery pieces?
Well, I think it's kind of ironic that Tim Piganelli and Diane Piganelli were here today, but because here they're that's a very famous name in the trial world, right? But Tim has been working with iPro for the last 3-4 years, getting certified, coming to our innovations, really learning the eDiscovery, because he's also realized that only 3 to 5% of cases go to trial. So maybe I need to move upstream a little bit more so I can better support my customers. So I think for you guys, the trial consultant folks, the world is really not that much different. And especially as we integrate the software, I think you'll see that you'll quickly be able to adapt. One of the things that I also want to mention, we have Eclipse SE, and we sell, that's our desktop review and processing tool, and that is thousands of customers across the country. Today, we have a full network of trainers that are not iPro trainers. They are Eclipse SE trainers. And so even though we sell it and we manage the customer, et cetera, we outsource all of that training, integration, implementation to those folks. And there's a network of people, and believe it or not, a lot of them are the old summation trainers. And so it's a good relationship. They're out there supporting iPro, they're promoting iPro, we're out there supporting and promoting them. We're able to service these customers all over the country with the greatest user experience possible, but we can't do it ourselves. It takes a village. Our plan is to do the same thing with trial. But to answer your question, Ted, we have all this online training. We offer training at our Ipro facility here. So if you wanted to learn about the eDiscovery phase, trust me, we'll do everything in our power to make you as knowledgeable as possible.
And if you've never been to Innovations, I'm every listener out there, just go. It is an amazing thing to go to, and you can learn so much even if you're not in the eDiscovery world. Derek, how's the interface going to be updated or changed now that you've obviously when you get acquired like this, you have more resources at your disposal. You have more people who can pound the keyboard, and you've got more people who can code, and you have a think tank that is larger. So the question is, how is the interface being updated or changed for TrialDirector now that inData was acquired by Ipro?
For us, it's been interesting. We have a really great development staff. They've got a lot of experience and a lot of great knowledge. And the great thing about it is we're able to bring our 40 people over and add them to Ipro so that we end up 200 people, which has been great. And we've been able to bring a lot of our design ideas and show to them, and they've been able to show their design ideas to us. And so the end all beat all to me is just how simple and easy is it going to be? Well, trial's still complex, but if you can really lead the customer down a path, that's going to help a lot. And I think that's been our focus, is on that user experience. If you look at TrialDirector 6.8 today, we're dragging along 15 years of legacy that it's really hard to modify and adjust. But there's a lot of new technology out there. There's a lot of new capability. And with our expertise and the Ipro developers' expertise, it's been great to get the teams together and the nerdery and get them talking and seeing, what's possible. And that's part of why I'm excited, is just seeing what all the possibilities are, is really a good opportunity to see and rethink and retool. And just because this is how we've always done it doesn't mean that's how we have to do it going forward.
Well, and I keep coming back to, last 2 years, and data has just been heads down building some really sexy software. So I can't wait to unveil this by Legal Tech, because they're, if you look at their new desktop and a lot of things that they were doing on the share and collaborative side, it's very innovative. And so I think we're going to shock some folks, and Ipro is going to get a lot of credit, so they're saying, oh my God, but it's inData. They've been moving the needle and moving the ball up the hill, or whatever analogy you want to do. They've been doing great work, which is why we wanted to acquire them. And then you mix it in with what we're doing. It's going to change litigation. And one of the things with Ipro, our mantra has been simple, affordable, and automated. And this, why would you ever build eDiscovery software and stop and then say, okay, trial prep and trial, you guys are on your own? It's the whole litigation process. So we're going to be one of the few companies out there, or the only company out there, that's going to take that data from beginning all the way to trial with one platform, one team, with a network of consultants, both on the eDiscovery side. We have a very large channel. We have a very large training group. And then you add the inData trial consultant group. It's software and service really combined all the way through the process.
Then I want to ask you a question, Kim, because this is my question. There has never, in the history of ever, been a software acquisition in the trial game that has worked. The main one was Alexander Gallo acquired Verdict Systems. LexisNexis acquired Sanction from Alexander Gallo during the bankruptcy. It didn't work. It failed. Why do you believe that Ipro jumping into the trial game with a piece of software is going to be advantageous for the Ipro brand?
Well, I think that's a great question. And the two examples that you led, you had these two behemoth companies that had no knowledge or no skin in the game or no real desire to be trial experts, right? So if you look at this merger or acquisition, we were 15 miles apart. They're a 29-year-old company. We're a 28-year-old company. Derek and I have this great relationship of trust and really open communication. But it also comes down to, I have Steve Moore on the team who did all the Lex Eludio trials. For 5 years, that's all I did. To have a CEO who can say that they have courtroom time, that's unique. And I think that's where we will be different, is the fact that we understand that business so well. But it also comes down to my history, right? So I've been now acquired 3 times. And one of our battle cry is we're going to do everything different than from when my companies were bought. And I can honestly say the Parker Gale acquisition has been amazing. It's business as usual. We haven't skipped a beat. And really, our battle cry that we've had with this, when we're getting the inData managers together and the Ipro managers together, is you can't have pride of authorship. You have to go and say, which is the best technology, which is the best feature, who has the better interface, who has the better accounting system, who has the better support system. And we have a unique ability to pick and choose. And 1 + 1 should equal 3, not 1 + 1 = 1.5. And because of our experience of acquisitions and trial, I think this is going to be different.
Well, I'd also add to that, one of the other things that makes this different is you have 2 people that are very passionate about the industry and have a vision that's very similar that I don't think either of the predecessor acquisition companies have had. And so being able to come in and leverage each other's strengths and weaknesses is great. But I think the fact that both of us have a very similar vision of where we want to see the industry go and being able to drive it that direction is also beneficial.
There's kind of a three-pronged question.
Objection, compound.
I'm gonna object to form.
You gotta wait for the third prong.
I'm gonna object. Ted. I'm gonna object to form, and I'm gonna move to strike.
Anyway, I'm gonna overrule all that. So, anyway, so regarding TrialDirector certified trainers, what's going to be their status going forward? Same goes for Ipro. If TrialDirector, I think you've already covered a little bit. That anyone currently, a trial tech or whatever, if they want to go through the schools and what have you, they can take the Ipro courses and become certified in that as well. And might be interesting to find out how long that might take, what it might cost, etc., just generally. And then finally, having come from way back from an in-house law firm experience and having had eDiscovery experience in-house, and it's been a while back, and eDiscovery was, in its earlier stages. But one thing that I found, in every box of eDiscovery, there's a hand grenade, and you have to somehow avoid it and hope it doesn't blow up on you. And if it does blow up, it can be catastrophic. So how are you, as Ipro or whatever, going to ensure that your, particularly, your trial techs or videographers or those kind of people coming in from that end of the business, deciding, hey, this eDiscovery stuff, here's where the money is. I'm going to jump in and get my money in there and develop my business. What are you going to do to make sure that they are competent, certified, and are you going to break the news that, guess what? You might be called to testify as an expert witness about this stuff. And which, by the way, if you are, you're not going to be in trial with it if it goes to trial, because now you're a witness. You're not going to be a trial consultant or trial tech in the same trial that you're going to be called in as a witness. I mean, have all those things been I'm sure they have, but I mean, maybe you can share how they've been discussed.
Hey, Ted,
sure. I'm going to start off and say, first thing, eDiscovery is hard. So whenever somebody talks to me about, oh, eDiscovery this or eDiscovery is hard. And one of the reasons why a law firm or a service provider or a consultant picks Ipro is because we've been doing this for 28 years, and our job is to take that tribal knowledge, take that industry knowledge, and put it into the software to try to protect you as best as possible. And that's why we have certification programs, training programs, consultants to help. We have 400 service bureaus that are trained and certified on our software. So we take this responsibility of eDiscovery as a big thing. Now, you mentioned going to court, and they might lose trial revenue because they're now in court. In 25 years of doing eDiscovery, and I've worked on Exxon, Enron, you name it, a case that begins with an E, I've done it, it seems like. How many times have I been called to be an expert witness? 0. And I probably have processed more data than most. So, when you hear all these rumors, you have to go and might have to do that. eDiscovery is almost a commodity on a lot of these areas. So that's not an issue. But, Derek, you want to answer the rest of his questions?
Yeah, and I think the market definitely has changed. I think that eDiscovery is like a term, and there's a lot of details that go with it, right? On the trainer front, the certified trainer front, we expect to keep certifying people on our product, and we expect to keep building that network of trainers and referring training out to them, and kind of adopting a lot of the methodology and the ways that Ipro has worked with their trainers and what they've been doing from a training standpoint.
Well, Derek, I got to ask a question about that. Is the training program to certify trainers for inData going to be? I don't want to say it's bad now because I don't know, but I've met a lot of certified trainers that are TrialDirector certified, quote unquote, and I mean, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. The way I like to think of it is there's a lot of people who are book smart. They may not be as street smart, but I don't know that. I think the difficulty with that is there have been we've tried to do a couple trial certification groups and get people in. There's so many details and so many nuances to the trial business that it's really hard to come up with the de facto certification standard. So what we look at it as is, do they know the software? Can they train the software? Do they really understand the basics of it?
Right.
That's kind of where we've worked it.
Well,
but I think you also have to look at, the training department is now much bigger. So at Ipro we have a lot of online resources. I mean, if you look at the eDiscovery stuff is very, very complicated, and not to diminish the trial side because that's complicated as well. But the eDiscovery side goes from beginning to almost the end, and there's a lot of moving parts. So we have 24-hour online capability for a thing called My Ipro that TrialDirector will be part of. We have a thing called Ipro Community, to where it's a forum to where customers and users are helping other customers and users. Our support team is probably 35, 40 people strong versus inData. So now you're going to start getting more resources involved with all of this. But I can tell you that we will look at Ipro certification, TrialDirector, inData certification, and how do we make them better along the way? Because we want the most people, but the best people representing the products. But one of the things that I can tell you is TrialDirector now has a little bit more muscle. So there's a lot of consultants out there that says, oh, well, I'm using OnQ, I'm using this, I'm using that. As Ipro's customers start buying TrialDirector and they start needing help and they start coming to Ipro and saying, who do you recommend? We're going to recommend those that are very loyal and long-standing and has a great track record of customer service, and their Yelp rating or whatever you want to call it is very, very high. So, I think that's one of the things that you'll see is I'm an aggressive guy. Ipro is an aggressive company, and we're going to take TrialDirector to a whole new level across the board. But we're also going to expect our trial consultants to be different in higher standards as well.
Well, are you going to have are you going to have in-house trial consultants, or are you going to just farm out to the world that sits out here?
Well, inData already has a couple of in-house folks.
Sure.
And so I think it's the same approach that we have with Eclipse SE. Ipro has a couple of trainers that, it's very important that we eat our own cooking. It's very important that we understand and we can service our customers. But if you look at Eclipse SE, 90% of Eclipse SE training is done through our certified trainers that are not, they're consultants of Ipro.
I'm talking about going to trial.
I see TrialDirector being the same.
I'm talking about the actual people who are going to go sit their ass in the hot seat.
Well, inData has 2 of those as we speak. So.
But the way you're talking, and let me tell you something. If anybody's going to blow this up, it's you. I mean, if anybody's going to make this thing fly and become global, Kim, it's definitely you. So because of the aggressive nature with which you do business, which has made you very successful, Lex Saludio, Encore, and now here at Ipro, are you going to farm that? I mean, 2 people aren't going to be able to get it done. So are people needing to send applications now to Ipro to become a trial tech, kind of like RLM? Or are they needing to just, say, hey, I'm out here. I want to be your third-party source to go out and do a trial?
I think I'm going to keep using the trial stuff, ask and answer. So, if you look at Eclipse SE, I'd say 85-90% of our training is third-party trainers. I believe, today we have, with the inData acquisition, we have 2 trial consultants. Does that mean that we might go to 3 or 4 or 5? I can't tell you, but I can tell you the bulk of the trials. If you look at how aggressive we want to put TrialDirector all over the country, we're going to need a hell of a lot of third-party consultants that are trained, certified in representing the Ipro TrialDirector product in a very good light. So we're going to need a ton of those third-party consultants, and so what that balance is, it's just the market will demand that.
I got it.
So are you saying then you are definitely not looking at the court reporting style of business wherein you have a few major players that bring all of these other acquisitions of small markets under their wing, and they become either acquired wholly or partially? I mean, or do you see that yet still in the thought process?
And that's a great question. I believe trial consultants is a relationship business. So, to me, I want to win over as many third-party trial consultants as possible. I want them to bring their customers and utilize the TrialDirector software. I don't believe that we're in a roll-up mentality that we're just going to go buy first of all, there's not that many, big trial consultant companies. It's a bunch of great people like you, Ted, where you guys have your business. Tim has his business. Robb Rosenberg has his business. We want to work with you guys on using and making sure that inData is your number one. TrialDirector is your number one tool. But we're going to be trying to sell more TrialDirector, which I keep saying, the more TrialDirector we sell, the bigger this pond gets for all of you consultants, to where you guys should make more money.
It goes back to a rising tide lifts all boats. We're getting to where we're going to wind down. I've got some questions for Derek. Derek, what about Timecoder and the delivery to MDB?
So there will be an update or an upgrade to Timecoder Pro, and as part of that, we have to support what the customer's using. So we'll still put it out to an MDB format. We're going to be pushing a DVT format versus a CMS because there's a little more that we can do with that, and it's a little more flexible. But as far as export options go, we'll still have XMEF, we'll have MDB, we'll have ASCII, we'll have ASCII with time codes. I mean, we still have to deliver what the customer wants. We're not forcing them into a hole.
What about the ELO format?
The Electric Light Orchestra format.
Yeah,
Love it.
They were blinded by the light.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a different group.
Listen, the Manfred Mann export is the one that was blinded by the light. The ELO.
I was gonna say he mixed my my joke.
The ELO export, the Electric Light Orchestra export, you can ask him about having to do that export in Houston in that second story area with the blacked out windows. He remembers it, right, Kim?
That's right.
Okay, so is the price of the software, TrialDirector, is it going to go up?
Undetermined at this point. What we will be doing is migrating from a license model to a subscriction model.
Yeah, that basically means yes, right?
That means yes.
Not necessarily. Depends on how you look at it and what you get.
I feel like Bill.
Well, and if you look at it, we want you to get features and upgrades as fast as possible, right? And that takes developers. So, but what I think you'll see is all kinds of enhanced modules, and that's kind of where Ipro has moved over the years. Is say, okay, here's the base model, but what else do you want to add on to this? So Eclipse SE is a prime example to where you can have high speed ingestion, or you can have low speed ingestion. You can have OCR workers. You can have a scanning module. So we're looking at, is there a piece of application, to do case map type functionality? Where are we on the trial presentation side? So I think you're going to see as we integrate, we're going to make many options for the customers to pick and choose what type of level of sophistication that they want.
Important question on developing these features and integrating the applications and what have you. You're going to have many more bells and whistles available. Are they going to be sort of on an a la carte basis, like, hey, I need this and I need that. I want TrialDirector, I want OCR, but I don't need all this other eDiscovery stuff. Or I don't want TrialDirector, I want eDiscovery. Is that all going to be available kind of as you want, as you need on that? And also, I can tell you that, inData in the past has been very good about involving outside trial techs, consultants, and what have you, with their development and their features and what have you. So do you see that sort of continuing with all of this, or do you see it more going in-house and we're going to develop this and hope you like it, or what do you see happening with that?
All right, Ted, I'm not going to pick on you, but I call things as you see it. Now, why in the hell would we go and say we have all the knowledge and that we're not going to utilize our resources? So, so obviously our Ipro today is probably more customer centric than you can ever imagine. We go and we have a full design team that is about 9 people. Okay, the design team of inData is 2 people. So we, and really it's Derek. So we have 9 designers that go out and get all kinds of feedback from our customers. We have all these net promoter scores that we look at. We have this very regiment process of building wireframes and doing it internally, sending it externally. We have alpha testers, we have beta testers. So, keep in mind, we're a 150 employees strong, very sophisticated company.
Well, we're now 200.
Now 200, so we're going to seek out every, we don't pretend to be all-knowing superpowers. We really want to build software for our customers, which is why we've tripled in size over the last 4 years. So we're going to reach out to anybody who wants to tell us and give us advice. Doesn't mean that we're going to take it. Which is also the caveat is, right. We have a vision of how this works. If you give us ideas that fits into the vision and it makes sense for the masses, we're going to try to include that. I have a slide on my onboarding where I show this big remote control that has 1,000 buttons on it, and that's not customer centric. That's going and chasing every dollar that comes around that says, if you just add this one feature, we'll be able to, my customers will be happy. So we have a roadmap, we have a vision. We would love your input. We'd love Piccanelli's input. We'd love Rosenberg's input, all these others. But it has to make sense for all of our customers.
This is and I understand that. I think just kind of putting this back onto where I think this can be summed up is the eDiscovery people are not complaining about the TrialDirector inData acquisition. It's the other way around. The trial techs are the ones that are all concerned about this whole thing, and they're the ones that are asking the questions and a lot making noise. And I know Derek has probably been called umpteen thousand times about what's going to change here and what's going to change here. But there's one particular area, Derek, this could get negative, and I've never tried to do that on this show. This could get a little bit negative, and this was written, it took the guy 7 paragraphs to get to the one question. And the question was, your support at inData was absolutely terrible. Your response time was horrible, and it was like jumping through hoops to get to somebody to support you. Now that you've been acquired by a company that is now 200 strong, will support get better? Yes or no?
Well, that's a good question as well, because if you look at it, one of the things that I think if you look at is a strong point of Ipro is our support. So 5 years ago when I came in, support was tracked by Outlook and Excel. Today we have a very strong support system to where we monitor every minute on the call, we track every issue, we then sum up all that data at the end of the week to say which items affect the most customers, has the most time, and then we go work with dev to eradicate that. If you come and tour Ipro, you'll see that we have metrics and numbers from hold times to all this stuff everywhere. One of the things that we also do is every person in our support team must be certified on our application, our ad application, within 90 days. We'll also include that for the TrialDirector programs. So we have a very strong support system to begin with, but we also try to augment that with My Ipro, which I said is a 24-hour system to where you can log in. Ipro's community. So you'll see that it takes a village to provide great customer support. And as the inData people, we're already in the same area. We're already starting a cross-training system to where, for us, our support team has to be able to support every application. It'll be no different with the TrialDirector software.
What can the users hang their hat on right now? Derek.
When you say hang your hat,
I just wanted to make sure that you were the one getting this question. What can the users hang their hat on that this is not going to be another LexisNexis? Oh my God, we've acquired them. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And we haven't heard a peep from Sanction. What?
I think the great thing about this acquisition has been, for us to be a 29-year-old company and to have 29 years of history to all of a sudden decide, hey, we're going to go and merge with this other company and become something different. It would have to make sense for just about all of us to be able to make that work. And we haven't heard any complaints. We've heard a few grumblings from a few individuals, but as a whole, I've got nothing but positives of people saying, oh my gosh, this opens up a lot of doors. And so the way that the thing I guess they could hang their hat on is I had an opportunity to just be bought out and be done. But I didn't take that opportunity. I took my investment and reinvested it back into Ipro because I believe that this is going someplace. I believe that together we can do a lot of really fantastic things that will definitely revolutionize the way things are done both in the eDiscovery market and the trial market. I think that overall, if people take a step back and look at the potential, it gives potential for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I want to throw some color on this. Scott Palmer, the CFO of inData, is now at Ipro as VP of Corporate Ops, and Derek, both of them now are two of the largest individual shareholders of Ipro. So the money that they rolled over is substantial. So if you think after 29 years, Derek would want to go and get his pina coladas and walk on the beach and all that good stuff. But it's just the opposite. He said, no, I want to move forward. But I'm going to tell you last night. Last night is about 6:30, and I'm in Derek's office, and he has his director of development from inData is now there, and the three of us are just like kids in the candy store, sort of saying, well, how do we use this viewer, and how can we put this in here, and all this stuff. It's 6:30 at night, and here's the three of us all brainstorming on how are we going to build the best user experience for our customers. It's business as usual, guys. So if you think that this is sanctioned or any of the other companies that merge, you're just the opposite. If anything, we're more energized than ever before.
So that leads me to.
Are you drinking pina coladas?
I'm gonna flip.
Virgin pina coladas. My good friend.
I'm gonna flip this to Ted in just a minute, and let him kind of close this thing out. But you mentioned something earlier, Kim, about you and Derek having been competitors, and it's funny how things come full circle. The funny thing to me is right now, Ipro has a great developer on staff, and the really weird thing is the guy who created Visionary is the guy who's at Ipro who can now lend himself over to TrialDirector, and I'm talking about Ryder Evans, and that would be a killer thing for the business as a whole, I think.
Well, and that's really, if you look, our foray into this was hey, we want to do more case map functionality, we want to do more trial prep functionality, which is why we went out and pursued Ryder 2 years ago. So Ryder, was the sole developer and main developer of Visionary, and I love that application. And because Derek and I used to compete, I wouldn't use TrialDirector, I would use Visionary, because we were mortal enemies. So having all of the inData resources and technology and all of Ryder Evans' knowledge, having folks like Steve Moore and myself, who's been in the courtroom time and time again. We have another guy who was the main trainer for LexisNexis. So we have a lot of trial folks here, which is kind of, I think, unique compared to the other acquisitions.
Close it out, Ted.
That's generally the phone call I get too, is they can't believe that Kim and I are in the same building.
Right. I mean, there was no doubt.
The thing is you get two people that are really passionate about what they believe in, and you put that together, and it can be a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think if you clear the smoke and the clouds, we realized that we were 98% in agreement on what we wanted, and there was a 2% disagreement. But our angst was that we were both passionate people competing against one another. So now you couple that passion together. I mean, it's been truly. I couldn't tell you that the due diligence and the deal process couldn't have been easier. Working with Parker Gale couldn't have been easier. And our customers now, the inData customers, Ipro customers, they have no idea that we've already merged the two corporations together on the employee side. It's so seamless and so much fun that we're having more fun now than we ever had before. So if I were competitors of inData or Ipro, I'd be concerned.
Well, there you
The
go.
only thing that would have made us better is if Brent Sandstrom was about 20 years younger.
No doubt,
Right.
no doubt. Or if you could,
There's a
get
guy who thinks outside the box. He, has a very creative mind, and he's just at a different spot in life and enjoying time with the grandkids.
And I think he would have loved this new version of inData iPro. And the ironic thing is, I used to work for Brent back in the Envision days, so it's kind of full circle.
Well, and there you have it. I know that Brent and Stan are both great guys. And Ted, take us out of here. Close the show.
Well, I mean, I'll just kind of encapsulate it by saying, that those who might see the fear of what happened to sanction and that, here we're dealing with, actually, I mean, TrialDirector is the best in its breed. There are other great things out there, good things coming up. TrialDirector has the market share. It has the market. And again, I mean, there are other great products out there. TrialDirector has that batch. Ipro has their market. They have their niche. They stand head and shoulders among many. And, I mean, I see a great deal of potential from this for those like myself who are coming from the trial angle. I see potential of integrating more tools that I would have had to go out and find elsewhere and cobble my own toolkit together. Well, now maybe I can have a toolkit that I can say, I can check the check boxes of which features I need and pay accordingly, or however that might work. And I also potentially see that, it might be good, for the industry or the profession or whatever, for all of us, all as the news spreads and the word gets out, and those of us who are involved in, trial work or eDiscovery or whatever, we're up on the radar one way or another for this, and bringing the software up on the radar too. In any event, I mean, I see it as a potential win-win. Looking forward to watching the development and hopefully throwing in a feature or two.
Always counted a pleasure to have Kim and Derek on the show, being able to talk with them. Always counted a pleasure to have Ted in here asking questions. I hope that for the users, I hope we've answered the questions that you had. Everything you sent me, I've asked. There were a few that I didn't, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to those because we're at an hour 2 right now. And we're going to, wrap this thing up. But feel free to reach out to Derek. He's still accessible. Feel free to reach out to Kim at iPro. I'm sure he'll answer your questions. And hopefully this thing does exactly what you guys have talked about it doing, because, as I said earlier, a rising tide lifts all boats. The more business that everybody gets, the more there is for everybody else. And so with that, I want to thank you, the listeners, for listening in and tuning in every week. We've got the new server going, and we've got the new host, and so we're ready for all that. So for my guests, Derek Miller and Kim Taylor, and my co-host on this show, Ted Brooks, I'm Robb Helt. We'll see you next week.